The Grand Theft Auto series is great, but that's the problem. It doesn't suck. We all know that GTA would be better if it was made by me with my $0 budget and my experience of a few months of game development. So today, I'm going to make this absolute masterpiece GTA game, and you might as well call it GTA 6. Before I waste your time, let's get started. So first things first, I need to make a main character that the player is going to control. GTA 5 has Franklin, Trevor, and Michael, but my game will have whatever 3D model that I managed to make. I went into Blender to start to make the character, and I imported this suspicious reference image. Please YouTube, I'm just trying to make a 3D model. I tried my best to trace around this reference image, but when I got to the shoulders, there was something weird going on and it looked awful, so I had to scrap the model and try to make another one. For attempt number 2, I watched a tutorial, and I was able to get more done than last time, and I was pretty happy with how it turned out until I checked the legs to realize I had to start all over again. For attempt number 3, I was not messing around. I really wanted to get this model done for the player, so I imported a more simple reference image in hopes that I would actually be able to make it this time. It turns out that my dreams came true, and I was finally able to make the player model. It was definitely not great and a little too blocky, but that's better than nothing. Since GTA characters usually don't run around naked, the next thing I did was add some clothes to the model. Basically, all I did for the clothes was duplicate some of the mesh and then scale it up to look like clothes. Then I made the skeleton, and I ran into a big problem. When he moves his bones around, his clothes come off. And obviously, that's not ideal for a GTA game, so after looking online for answers and still not figuring it out, I decided to just give up on the player model, and I went to the Unity asset store. That is where I found this free third-person character controller, and it's made by Unity themselves, so it must be good. Then I created a project for the game, put a floor down, and imported the character controller asset. This asset comes with some environment, but I'll replace that soon. So now I have a main character in the game, and I realized that this would have taken a long time to get up and running, so I'm glad I found this free asset. For this GTA game, I need a city. Since modeling an entire city would take months, I chose to use a free asset that I found in the asset store. It turns out that the city asset is actually pretty commonly used, and it pops up in various videos like this one from Laserbeam. So after importing the asset, the player can now run around the city, and yeah, that's just like GTA. I might as well stop right now and call it GTA 6. What is taking Rockstar so long? I just made this in like a few hours. Alright, maybe there's a little more to GTA than just the city. I'm not sure if the GTA games have any cars, but I decided I want some anyway. I looked for some car assets, and then I proceeded to import about 5 different assets into the game, and none of them worked. I tried to go into the code to fix the problems I was having, but all the code looks like it was written by a senior software engineer at Google. And that's not something someone like me can understand, so after a while of banging my keyboard, I realized that GTA doesn't even have any cars in the game. A car? What is that? What am I doing? I decided to move on. So I couldn't even make my own player model or add cars. I guess this GTA game really does suck, but I still have a lot more to do. Every good GTA game needs some violence, so I found this weapon pack on the asset store and I gave it AK to my player. So now the player can use his telekinetic powers to hold up a gun without even holding on to it. Yeah, he totally just has powers and I wasn't being lazy. Since GTA games wouldn't be the same without missions, I now want to add a mission. The idea for this mission is that the player will have to go through this alleyway and steal this diamond from the rival gang. For the enemies, I brought a character model into the alleyway, and then I gave him some red material to let the player know that this is an enemy. An enemy without a gun would be pretty boring if I do say so myself, so I gave him the AK model that the player has. I then set up the diamond in a position where the player will have to go to steal it. I realized that I was getting a little ahead of myself, and I was making a mission before I even had the gun shooting. The idea originally was to have the gun shoot an actual physical bullet, so I went to the asset store to find a bullet model, and of course, I dragged the pricing all the way down because YouTube doesn't pay a dime. Now, when the player shoots a bullet, the bullet gets spawned, but there was something wrong with the rotation. I spent the next half an hour trying to fix the rotation to make the bullet shoot correctly, and I realized that I had this exact problem before, but I still didn't know how to fix it. I looked on forums, watched a couple tutorials, and asked this stupid robot to see if it could help me. But nothing worked, so I went with the next best option, which would be to shoot balls. So now, the player can shoot these spheres, and I guess it doesn't look too bad. The game is supposed to suck, right? Now, I want to make the enemy able to shoot back at the player to defend their diamond. I only want the enemy to shoot if they can see the player, so I set up a raycast that will go from the enemy to the player to check if there's anything between them before shooting. Now, the enemy actually puts up a fight to defend himself, and it's working pretty good. Now let's be honest, it's working good, but it doesn't look good. So I thought to make a muzzle flash particle effect that would show up when the gun is shot. This definitely adds a lot and makes it better to look at. By the way, quick plug, if you want your videos edited just like this one, then check the link in the description, and without wasting any time, let's get back into the video. Right now, everyone has infinite health, so I added a health bar for the player and one for the enemies. After doing some coding, the player can now take damage and deal damage. I want the player to see some text on screen that would tell them the current mission, so I downloaded the GTA font from some website, and I put the text at the top of the screen that would tell the player to steal the diamond. Originally, I wanted to add a physical arrow into the scene that would indicate where the player should go for the mission, but I had some problems implementing this, and I figured that it would just be better if the arrow was on a minimap that I'll be making a little later. Since the player can't actually beat the mission yet, I made a pop-up that shows when the player completes the mission, and I chose to go with the classic mission passed respect plus screen. So now, when you kill the 2 enemies and steal the diamond, you can beat the mission and a pop-up will show. GTA games are known for their heists, so now I need to add a heist into my game. The idea is that the player will have to go rob a store. I know it's simple, but it'll work. I found this store model in the asset store, and I found a good open spot in the city to place the store. After the player steals the diamond, the new mission will appear and it'll tell the player to rob the store. But before we actually get around to making the logic for robbing the store, I thought it would be a good time to add a minimap into the game. Adding a minimap is actually pretty simple. All you have to do is add a camera that looks straight down at the player, render it on an image, and then make it follow the player. Earlier, I mentioned something about an arrow being on the minimap. I want an arrow to show the player where to go to beat the mission, so I tried to set it up, but I had the same problem with the rotation being messed up just like the bullet earlier. Except this time I really wanted to get it working, so eventually after 43 minutes and 27 seconds, I stumbled across a forum that told me I had to write it like this. Now, there's an arrow on the minimap that will tell the player which direction to go, and I also added an icon for the player. Now, I need to make the store robbable, since all you could do right now is just look at it. I went to Mixamo and I found this perfect animation that will play when you rob the store. I even took the model with the animation, because yes, I imported the model into my game and all the textures were lost. So I had to give him some colors and I set him up behind a counter waiting to get robbed. I then put an invisible wall down to trigger the robbery and I began coding. So every few seconds after triggering the robbery, I want some money to be spawned and thrown at the player. The money will get spawned 4 times before 5 stars appear on the screen. I think we all know what the 5 stars mean, and the mission currently says to escape the police, but the police don't exist yet, so I went to the asset store to find some police related models. I then found this free pack that comes with a police car and a helicopter. This is perfect for GTA 6, so I set up the police stuff outside of the store, and I put some cops around that will try to kill you. So now after you finish robbing the store, the police will magically spawn in, and I also found a really annoying police siren, so I added it as well. I then started to set up a money system so the player can actually get money. I added some UI, and I made the money amount increase when the player steals the diamond and also when robbing the store. Next, I added an awesome sound effect for the man in the store when he starts to get robbed. Just listen to it. I also added a couple of sound effects, like one for the AK shooting, and a couple of particles like one for the blood. The next major thing I added into the game is the person talking to you when you're doing the mission. You know how you'll hear someone's voice talking to you when doing a GTA mission? That's what I was trying to add, and I went to this website to get some text-to-speech voices. The first voiceover will tell the player to steal the diamond from the rival gang. The second one will tell the player that all they have to do is rob the store. The third one will say to get out of there quick, and the last one will tell the player that they did a great job and that it was a big payout.
That was a great payout.
This one person in my comments asked if I can add Among Us, and I thought why not, so luckily I made this very questionable game a while back, and that means they had an Among Us model already. I then replaced one of the cops with this red Among Us character, and now it's one of the cops. The last thing I did for this game is add the famous wasted screen when a player dies. So yeah, that's pretty much GTA 6. Rockstar should hire me. If you want to play Grand Theft Suck, the link will be in the description and you won't have to download it. If you like this video, then there is a 100% chance that you'll like one of the videos that is on screen now. Click on one of them and thanks for watching.